Okay. Praise the Lord and greatly to be praised. He is defeated above all gods. Only one God. That's the God of Jesus, as far as I'm concerned. The only true God. And Jesus, who he sent. The only wise God. The rest of them are not too bright, according to that verse that was written by Paul. Being born again, of incorruptible seed, by the Spirit of the living God, the resurrection and life, the only one that has immortality, living in the light that no man can see, no man has seen. According to that, nobody has gone to the domain of God, which the location thereof is unknown. It's unknown where God is located. And he has provided no information as to where he is located. And so some people just don't believe in him from the word go. They don't consider it at all. But where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. You just have to find out where that is, where that Spirit is. If you can get to it, it might be too far away. You might have to drive 500 miles or 200 miles, which doesn't seem too practical. All right, here we go in part 6. Here we go again with the next part of the Contradictions in Matthew. Part 6. I'm going to start at Matthew 18. And I got verses 23 through 35. Verse 23. Therefore is the kingdom of heaven like a certain king, which would take account of his servants. And when he had began, is really that should say, to reckon, to consider, one was brought to him which owed him 10,000 talents, or whatever, some large amount of money. But for as much as he had not to pay, he had no money, his Lord commanded him to be sold, like a slave. And his wife, what did she do? And children, really? And all that he had, and payment to be made. So he was going to sell them into slavery, apparently. Well, I wrote under there, this is how it works in a nation with laws, but it really means that they were going to have to pay, in modern language, they were going to have to pay the money that was owed. They borrowed money, and they were going to have to pay it back. They weren't going to be allowed to just say, hey, that's cool. They weren't going to be allowed to go free from the debt. They were going to have to pay the debt. If that's the law, if that's what the law is, that if you borrow money, you got to pay it back, then that's what you got to do. The government has no right to say, oh, we're going to forgive that debt because we want to be elected in the next cycle. So if your nation has laws, that's what they do. In verse 26, the servant therefore fell down and worshipped him. Worshipped him? Well, that's the wrong word. Saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay you all. So I wrote, so just worship the judge, and he will let you off, according to that. Because then the next verse it says, then the Lord of that servant was moved with compassion because he worshipped him, right? Doesn't sound right to me. And loose him and let him go. And forgave him the debt. So all you got to do is, if you owe some people money, just worship them. I don't think that'll work. So I wrote down here, that would be a lawless society. No such thing. So they're not enforcing any laws. You can't have a society. You can't have a country if you do that. But the same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence. That's why he couldn't pay the other guy, because he wasn't getting paid by his debtors in this imaginary scenario, with which we have no details whatsoever. And he laid hands on him. He grabbed him and took him by the throat, saying, pay me that you owe. So he didn't believe in a lawless society. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet and asked him, saying, have patience with me, and I will pay you all. And he would not, but went and cast him into prison till he should pay the debt. Well, he wanted the money so that he could pay the other guy. Because the other guy, the king, he was the creditor. He forgave the debt. There's no such thing. No such thing. And so, if somebody won't pay a debt, then there has to be a penalty. So I wrote here, this is how it has to be to discourage fraudsters and scammers. You have to have a penalty. If you break the law, there's got to be a penalty, or else people will just keep doing it, keep breaking the law. That's why there's a problem in this country, because they don't really punish people for breaking the law many times. And so they go back and they do it again. People will be deported several times and they come right back. I totally believe in execution. In many cases, repeat offenders, career criminals, people that disrupt society, that won't work for a living, drug dealers, fentanyl dealers, human traffickers, human smugglers. Verse 31, so when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry, and came and told to their Lord all that was done. So they went and reported what they saw. Then his Lord, after he had called him, said to him, oh, you wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt. So was he forgiving everybody? That doesn't make any sense. Because you desired me. That's all. You just have to desire somebody to forgive you of a debt. So you can borrow money for a car or a house or whatever, and then just say, I desire you to forgive me of this debt. And they say, okay, fine. Certainly not. So I wrote, he forgave him because he desired him. That is funny. What would a cop do? Many people, when they're getting arrested, I watch a lot of videos on people that are arrested for all these different crimes. And many of them will say, oh, come on, let me go. I got to get out of here. I got to leave. And the cop just says, here, I'm going to cuff you. That's their response. They many of the girls will scream, "Don't touch me, don't touch me." But that doesn't work either. The cop will arrest you. If you've broken the law, he will arrest you. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Verse 33. Shouldn't you also have had compassion on your fellow servant, even as I had pity on you? So I wrote, that is not how society works in any country. I like to put that on the same line, actually, because it'll fit. No country has laws like that. And his Lord was angry and sent him to the tormentors. It's a very poor word, and I think many versions use that. And I said, come on. It seemed like they all did. Till he should pay all that was due him. Some said prison, put in prison, but tormentors, that's very poor communication. So I wrote, what is a tormentor? And how would that pay the debt? Verse 35. So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also to you, if you from your hearts forgive not everyone his brother their trespasses. Well, that's ridiculous. That's totally not realistic. So I wrote, so as long as you let people abuse you, trespass against you, whatever, you can abuse others and be forgiven for it. As long as you forgive everybody that abuses you. And that's nonsense. That's just ridiculous. So now I move to Matthew 20:8 through 12. So when the evening was come, the Lord of the vineyard said to his foreman, call the laborers and give them their pay, beginning from the last to the first. And when they came that were hired about the 11th hour, they received every man a penny. It's all hypothetical, of course. So the last ones that came at the late hour got a penny. But when the first came, they supposed that they should have received more. They supposed that they should have received more. And they likewise received every man a penny. And when they had received it, they complained against the owner of the land, saying, these last have worked but 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, which have suffered the burden in the heat of the day. And then you move up to verse 16. So the last shall be first, and the first last. For many be called, but few chosen. A very strange statement. The whole thing is strange. What is he saying? He's saying, so I summarized what was really being said here. It's really kind of simple. So, if you have served God for a very long time, you will still get paid the same as someone that has served for a very short time, very short. And not only that, you will be paid last over the ones who serve for a short time. So what? It depends on what you're getting. We don't even know. This is all hypothetical, theoretical. There's no detail, any concrete information here. And then, on the top of that, there is the danger of not being chosen after all that. Supposedly, I wrote. Which is, this is an odd statement. So people are called. But I would say, well, they're called, and do they answer? And if they answer, why aren't they chosen? And chosen for what? Eternal life? Doesn't even say. It doesn't even say. It's not explained. It's It's vague. It's unclear. There's no detail. It's terrible. So if he was talking about eternal life, he should have said so. Matthew 21, 1 through 7. And when they drew near Jerusalem and had come to Bethphage, to the Mount of Olives, then Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, go into the village across from you, and immediately you will find an ass tied and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. Well, this is a false account because it wasn't 2 animals. So this is I believe, a totally fabricated account of what happened. Because the original verse, which I'm going to read in the Old Testament, in Zechariah, was talking about 1 animal. And Matthew seems to believe it means 2, so he concocts the story here. He fabricates it to say that they were told to get 2 animals. All the other Gospels say 1 animal correctly. But this Matthew didn't get it a lot of times. No, many, many times he didn't get it. Untie them, there's no doubt he's talking about 2, and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, you shall say, the Lord has need of them. And immediately he will send them. Now there's no doubt, and all the scholars agree that when you read Zechariah, which I'm going to read, it's talking about 1 animal. It's a type of phrasing that was used, which meant 1 animal. Because then he says, all this was done so that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, tell the daughter of Zion, behold, your king comes to you, meek, and sitting on an ass, even a colt, the foal of an ass. Well, even there you can clearly see that's talking about 1 animal. It's a young animal. But he's giving the account as if there's 2 animals. Well, what is he going to do? Sit on 2 animals at the same time? And they brought the ass. And the disciples went and did as Jesus commanded them. And they brought the ass, even the colt, and put their clothes on them. He sat on them. Oh, how did he do that? He'd hurt himself if he did that. Try to ride 2 animals at the same time. No, he did not do that. That's ridiculous. That is so not right. So implausible it isn't funny. So here it is, Zechariah 9:9. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion, shout. O daughter of Jerusalem, behold your king comes to you. He is righteous and victorious. Meek. See, there's that word again. I put that in bold in that other verse. And riding on an ass, even on a colt, the son of an ass. See, it's just 1 animal. It was a colt. A colt is an ass. It's just a young ass. So I defined meek. Meek means to be quiet, gentle, and easily imposed on and submissive to what people want. See? That's what meek means. So I just like to demonstrate how Jesus was not meek, because this is talking about the time that he went into the temple and started to tear up the place. Matthew 21, and Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out all those who sold and bought in the temple. I've been over this, but if I'm going to go through this gospel, I'm going to go through it as if I haven't gone through any other gospel. And cast out all those who sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers. Where were the police? And the seats of all those who sold doves and sold whatever. Other animals must have been there too. So I wrote here, Jesus was violent, not meek here. Right. So it's a contradiction. It's quite the contradiction that we have, that the verse saying that this person who is coming on a colt, would be meek. No, he was violent. He was violent. So it's an amazing contradiction, really. Matthew 21:18 through 22. And now early in the morning, as he was coming back into the city, he hungered. I was hungry. And seeing a fig tree by the road, he came up to it, but found nothing on it except leaves only. And he said to it, let there never again be fruit from you forever. And immediately the fig tree dried up. Or did it? I'm going to read an opposite account, because we have a conflict between, did the tree or the fig tree dry up immediately, or did it dry up over 24 hours? And after seeing it, the disciples were amazed, saying, how quickly. So this account clearly says that the fig tree dried up quickly and immediately. Saying how quickly the fig tree has dried up. That's what it's saying. Then, verse 21, Jesus answered and said to them, truly I say to you, if you have faith and do not doubt, which a lot of people have, not only shall you do the miracle of the fig tree, but even if you shall say to this mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea, it shall come to pass. Not too many people have done that. Like nobody. And everything that you shall ask in prayer, believing you shall receive. No, that's fantasy land. That's fantasy land. That's all. That's a promise that is just not realistic. It's something that just doesn't happen, unfortunately. It'd be good. It'd be great. You know, people are very happy when they read that and they say, oh, I've really found the answer now to everything. No, not really. Not in this way. Not to be able to just ask for anything and you get it. Move physical objects with your words. No. So here is the opposite account in Mark. I'm going through Mark. I'm more than halfway through it now. And there's some things in there I want to go over again. Sometimes there's a repetition, but there's a few things. It's not going to be nearly as much as this book. Mark 11:12 through 14. And in the morning, after they left Bethany, he became hungry. So it's similar, or the same thing. I mean, he got hungry again, right? Then, seeing a fig tree afar off that had leaves, he went to it to see if it might possibly find something, on it. did they have any food? Figs are good, but they're not going to really give you any sustained energy. If that's all you're going to eat. Figs are great, but you can't exist on just figs. But after coming to it, he found nothing except leaves. And you know what amazes me is the next part. It says, because it was not yet the season for figs. Well, come on. Was that true? So if it wasn't the season for figs, why did he kill it? He killed the thing. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to report, I would rather have him raise a fig tree from the dead than kill the fig tree, especially when it was out of season. According to this, it doesn't say that in the other account. It doesn't say that it was not the season for figs. Maybe it was the season for figs. I mean, how do you know? Considering we have two accounts that are in conflict. And Jesus responded by saying to it, that no one eat fruit from you any more forever. And his disciples heard it. Okay. So, he did the same thing there. Now you come down to the 20th verse of the same chapter. And in the morning, see, so notice the other one says, and in the morning, and then we have in the morning again, so it was the next day. As they passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots. And now, it's clear by the next verse that it didn't dry up, according to this account, immediately. Because it says, then Peter remembered and said to him, look, Master, the fig tree that you cursed has dried up. See? So he never saw it dried up immediately, according to this. So, which one is true? Can't tell. So I wrote, in this account, it took a day to dry up. So once again, we see that they couldn't get the story straight. One writer said one thing, and the other writer was saying the opposite. A lot of that. It's amazing how much of that there is. So obviously there wasn't rock-solid documents written down at the time, compared by all parties. No, certainly not. No. So then we go to Matthew 21, 33 through 46. There's quite a few verses in here. Here another parable. There was a certain farmer which planted a vineyard. It's a story. Here another story. It's another story. These are stories he told, you know. He planted a vineyard, put a hedge around it, and installed a wine press in it, and built a tower, and leased it to tenant farmers, and went into another country. Why? Why did this farmer, he was more like a businessman, he planted a vineyard, then he rented it out, he leased it to other people. So that means it's their business at that point. You know, they're the ones that are going to reap the profit from that business. Because it doesn't say he hired some managers to manage it for him. This is what many of the versions say. And I forget the word, I changed it here. The King James says something You can't even, it's not even modern language, you can't even understand it. But the other versions say leased it. A lot of them do. Modern versions. So I'm going to finish on this large section. But then it says that when the time of the fruit drew near, he sent his servants to the farmers that he might receive the fruits of it. And I wrote, why? They leased it. See, technically, if they leased it, then it was theirs. They were paying the farmer. They were renting it. And it was their business. It's like if you rent a house, then it's your house as long as you pay the rent. Or if you lease a house, same thing. You lease an apartment, it's yours to use. Totally 100% yours to use. Well, if they leased it, then they were paying their rent for the farm. They didn't own it. He could have, at the time of the lease, in a year he wanted, he could end the lease and then he'd be the owner again of the farm. And the farmers took his servants and beat one and killed another and stoned another. Why? That makes no sense. It makes no sense. These tenant farmers were renting the farm. Why would they do that? It makes no sense. What kind of tenant farmers were they? They were criminals. They weren't even legitimate. Again, he sent other servants more than the first, and they did to them the same. Doesn't make any sense. How's that going to end? How's that situation going to end like that? It won't end good. But last of all, he sent to them his son. So that's dumb. He is abusing all these people. It even says they killed one of the servants that were sent to these tenant farmers. So these people are dangerous, basically. What about the police? And so then it says he sent his son. Well, that's not very smart. I mean, if you're just looking at this story for face value, this is what you get. Why would you do that? You wouldn't send your son. You'd send the police. Doesn't make any sense. And the guy didn't have any sense. This farmer who created this vineyard, he planted it, then he left. He let somebody else take it over, as long as they paid him a certain amount of money. Last of all, he sent to them his son, saying, they will reverence my son. Are you crazy? They killed one of the servants. Why in the world would they reverence your son? Not going to do it. So I wrote, they killed his messengers. Why would you send your son? You have to be crazy. That's all. But when the tenant farmers saw the son, they said among themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him and seize on his inheritance. Well, that doesn't make sense either. How are they going to seize on his inheritance by killing him? Doesn't make any sense. Well, in the end, how do they expect to maintain that farm? They were granted a lease. They should have been thankful. It doesn't make any sense. If they were real farmers, so I wrote, how is killing the son going to get his inheritance? It's not. I mean, they could keep the farm like a stronghold, defend the farm as if it was theirs, but then sooner or later, the law is going to catch up with them. It's bound to happen. And they caught him and cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. When the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those tenant farmers? They say to him, he will miserably destroy those wicked men and will lease out his vineyard to other farmers, which render to him the fruits in their seasons, So I wrote more crazies. So he's going to lease out the vineyard to other farmers. Well, he was very poor at choosing the farmers in the beginning. So why should we believe that he's going to choose anybody but criminals, which he chose before? And, you know, this is supposed to be a story about God sending Jesus. But if you look at it just as a story that would make sense, you see that it doesn't. You know, the analogy is that somehow it was a kind of a farm, and God expected them, now that I think about it, to reverence his son. But that was never the plan. God was going to have them kill him as an offering for sin. He wasn't expecting them to reverence Jesus, right? Verse 42, Jesus said to them, "Did you never read in the scriptures, the stone which the builders rejected, the same has become the head of the corner? This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes." First of all, there shouldn't be a question mark here, because I'm going to read. This opens up a whole new subject, because I'm going to go over this whole business about Jesus being a cornerstone. I disagree with it. I mean, I have a lot of reasons. Just don't like the whole idea. I have a lot of comparisons to make. You can go on forever with the comparisons. You know, as if Jesus was some kind of a stone that could have been used to build something or something. And it's ridiculous. And now he's the head of the corner. That's why I'm saying next week I'm going to delve into that very deeply. But this is in the same section, so I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. And it's amazing that they put a question mark there, because it's like it's asking you as if, is it marvelous? No, in the original it just states it, in the Psalms. It is marvelous in our eyes, period. So that's ridiculous. So you don't even think that the writer is even sure of what they're even stating. And like I'm going to say, Jesus is not just a rock on the corner of a foundation. That's ridiculous.